Started. So welcome everybody, and we are going to record so that we have this as an archival resource that we can access in the future months as we have students interested in our 3+3 program. And so I'm Sarah Scott. I'm Dean of Integrated Learning, and I'm so excited to have Barbara Andelman and Lee Fisher here with us from Cleveland Marshall, and our provost, two faculty who advise in the pre-law program, and a couple of students, I think, with us today. So our goal is to give kind of an introduction to the 3+3 law program that Wagner is offering, and have some opportunity toward the end of the hour for some Q&A if folks have questions. So I'll just give a brief overview of what we'll be doing. I'll ask Provost Kraus, Dr. Kraus, to give a brief introduction to the thought process behind this building of the program. I'll spend a few minutes talking a little bit about the first 3 years of what students can expect to complete while they're at Wagner. And then we'll have Dean Fisher speak for a moment and introduce Cleveland Marshall. And then we'll have Dean Andelman speak about the second half of the program at Cleveland Marshall, the 3 years there, and then we'll have a Q&A. So without further ado, Dr. Kraus, if you could just give us a few moments of insight about how this program came to be, and yeah, so take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. Our goal was to create opportunities for our students, especially those who are interested in going to law school. And one of the issues that's emerged in recent years is just the cost of higher education in general. So, you know, the thinking behind a 3+3 program is, at the very least, a student is able to reduce their education and therefore their educational expenses by 1 year. So back actually about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we started thinking about this and started looking at whether or not it was something that we could do and that our students would be interested in. We started reaching out to law schools that have these kinds of arrangements. And in the case of Cleveland State, they were interested in working with us. So here we are, you know, today. It's a wonderful opportunity, you know, for students. We're hoping down the road, there will be a number of Wagner students who go on to get their degrees, you know, at Cleveland State. It's an opportunity for our students, obviously. It's an opportunity for them not only to go to law school, but shave a year off of their overall higher education. And we thought that given what we learned about the school and their program, that they would be a good partner. And you know, the fact that the dean of the school has joined us today, I think is very significant, because it demonstrates their interest and their commitment. So you know, this is really special for us. And I hope it's, as Humphrey Bogart said at the end of Casablanca, the beginning of a beautiful friendship. You know, so thank you all for being here. Sarah, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kraus. So yes, so I'm going to share my screen so that I can direct folks to our pre-law page on our website, and folks can read through the details of some of the opportunities that we offer, some of the programs here. But as you scroll down, there is a section about our 3+3 law school program that details some of the pieces that Dr. Kraus just mentioned, and indicates that in addition to Cleveland Marshall College of Law, we also have an articulation with Vermont Law School. And important for students who are beginning their career at Wagner to be thinking about is the requirement that students have a 3.5 GPA throughout their, by the end of their third year at Wagner, and that they must complete 27 units of study prior to moving into the Cleveland Marshall portion of the program. So there's an additional link here folks can click on, and that will pull up a more detailed explanation of the program, which I'm sharing here. It outlines the trajectory, when to apply. So there are really 3 different phases of the process here. First, students should, by the time the end of their freshman year or beginning of their sophomore year, come and meet with the Dean of Integrated Learning to discuss their intention to take part in this program and plan for their 27 units at Wagner to make sure that they're on time and completing everything in a timely fashion. Then within their sophomore to junior year is when they are working diligently to complete their application to go into this program. And then finally, they will be accepted based upon the requirements at Cleveland Marshall. So I wanted to just share a few important points about what happens during the Wagner phase, which is that they must design what's called an independent interdisciplinary studies major. This is a major that is offered across the whole college, but when we put together our program for this law articulation program, and we foresaw the need for students to be very strategic and focused in order to complete their major on time, but also to have the freedom to choose from a number of different disciplines that might prepare them in a very diligent way for law. That this interdisciplinary studies major would be an option for them. It requires, it's got a number of requirements, and there's an application process. And so students who want to do this should come and meet with the Dean of Integrated Learning. And as part of that program, I have here the application for that interdisciplinary studies major. This program here is one that allows students to work directly with up to 2 different advisors to build a program. And so, for example, we could envision a student putting together a major that might be political science, gender studies, and history. And they would choose to take normally their senior learning community, which happens for most students in the 4th year. They would take that a year early, and they would have these advisors to work with very closely in order to make sure that they're completing this requirement by the end of their junior year, possibly into the summer if they're to take an internship over the summer after they've completed their junior year at Wagner. So really important to come and meet with me, Dean of Integrated Learning, to get this interdisciplinary studies major launched. And the second page of this application indicates that, again, in general, the student will choose 2 tenure track faculty sponsors from 2 of the different departments that they'll be choosing courses from, and one of them will be their primary advisor. Specifically for students who will be pursuing this program, we're requiring that one of these faculty sponsors be an advisor in the pre-law program. So this could be Professor Esser, Dr. Ghosh, but again, the first kind of level of conversation would be with an advisor in the pre-law program and or the Dean of Integrated Learning, so we can make sure that students are supported from a very early stage in making sure they have the time and strategy to accomplish this the first 3 years. So that is a little bit about what the first portion looks like. The second portion will require the students to complete an application to Wagner to intend to do this program. And so that's a second form that we will talk with students about pretty much right after they get their interdisciplinary studies major determined. We'll then do a second very straightforward application that will help track their progress in the 3+3 program, leading up to then the third phase, which is applying to getting the law school materials ready to go. So yeah, so students should come talk to me or come talk to one of the advisors in the pre-law program. And some of them are listed on our website down at the bottom of the pre-law website. Dr. Esser, Dr. Kraus, David Martin, myself, and Dr. Matt Kubacki. Dr. Kubacki is the Dean of Advising at the college and can also help students who have questions about the program direct them to the proper folks. So, so I think that's all I'll share now. Just the important piece is to start early and to work with those of us here to get ready to go and make sure all of your ducks are in a row for success as you move through the 3 years here at Wagner. Let's see, I think I'll just leave our pre-law website, or actually I'll leave this here. Again, the link here for more information can help students find their way to all of us as well. So next up, we're going to have Dean Fisher from Cleveland Marshall talk a little bit about the law school program there. Dean Fisher is the Joseph C. Hostetler Baker Chair in Law at Cleveland Marshall. He's had an amazing career, spans the public, private, nonprofit, and academic sectors. He is senior fellow at CSU's Levine College of Urban Affairs and an urban scholar at the College of Urban Planning and Public Affairs and the Great Cities Institute at the University of Illinois at Chicago. He's had decades of experience in legal practice, beginning with a clerkship in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. Following that work, he served as the Ohio Attorney General and was the first to personally argue cases before the Ohio Supreme Court and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. He served as Ohio's Lieutenant Governor, as Director for the Ohio Department of Development, as Chair of the Ohio Third Frontier Commission. He's also been a state senator and a state representative, and has served as the President CEO of CEOs for Cities, and as President and CEO of the Centers for Families and Children. He's a graduate of Oberlin College and completed his law degree at Case Western Reserve University School of Law, as well as a Master's of Nonprofit Organization from the Mandel Center for Nonprofit Organizations. So it's such a great pleasure to have Dean Fisher with us here to share some of his thoughts and have him share a little bit about Cleveland Marshall and the benefits that this program can offer for students. So Dean Fisher, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, Dean Scott, thank you very much. And I want to thank the provost, the professors, all the pre-law ambassadors and advisors, and all the students tuning in today to give us the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about our law school. First, I want to say how proud we are and happy and excited to have this partnership with Wagner. Wagner is an extraordinary college and in many ways very similar to our law school in the sense that you combine deep learning with practical application. That's really what we stand for too. So this couldn't be a better marriage and partnership. And I realize that some of you may be thinking about law school, but have not yet decided. And I think it's fair to say, Dean Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but that even though it's one of the great reasons to come to Wagner, you don't necessarily have to decide your freshman year, but it'd be a good idea to begin thinking about it at least by your sophomore year. Would that be fair to say, Dean?
Yes, I would say that would be a good way to think about it, sure.
Right. And I also want you to know that getting a law degree, to me, is getting a leader degree. The reason I say that is that even if you're not sure you want to practice law, getting a law degree gives you the ability to look at things differently, to solve complex problems, to analyze things. Now, yes, it's true that most people who go to law school end up practicing law, but more and more students are going to law school, even if they don't want to practice law, whether they want to go into business or government or public service. In fact, in some ways, I'm sort of a good example of that, because even though I practice law, I've had a pretty non-traditional career, having been in elected office for 20 years and in the nonprofit sector for almost as long, as well as the private sector. And in each one of those jobs, even when I wasn't practicing law, it was the law degree that helped me, I think, be successful at what I did. It's one of the reasons we have, like you have, a leadership program. Because we believe that although it's important to know substantive areas, it's even more important to have critical thinking skills, to know how to engage in teamwork, to know how to collaborate, to know how to solve problems. And those are skills that can be learned particularly through leadership programs like Wagner has and like we have. And we're one of the few law schools in the country that has a leadership program as part of our curriculum. I would say to you that although I respect all professions, if you take a look back at the founding document of the United States of America, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and you look at those who signed that document and who wrote that document, with all due respect, they weren't engineers, they weren't dentists, they weren't doctors. Most of them were lawyers. There have been more lawyers who've been president of the United States than any other profession, more lawyers who've been in the United States Senate and Congress than any other profession. It's not an accident. It's because that legal degree gives you that extra advantage in life. So I say this to you because I wasn't sure that I wanted to go to law school my freshman year. Yes, I started to think about it my sophomore year. But what really convinced me was looking at the people who I admire, people who had been successful in their careers. And I did a little research and found that most, not all, but most had a legal degree. What Cleveland Marshall Law School at Cleveland State University is known for is the fact that we combine the theoretical aspects of law with the practical aspects of law, which means that you graduate to be leadership ready and practice ready. We have clinics, we have experiential learning, just like it's emphasized at Wagner as well. In fact, in some ways, we really consider ourselves a law school without walls. We use the city as our classroom. We're in downtown Cleveland, right next to the largest theater district between New York City and Chicago. Yes, it's not as big as New York City, I admit, but it's pretty big. It's called Playhouse Square. You can walk to different plays within 2 minutes of our law school. You can walk to all the major legal employers in Cleveland within a 5 to 10 minute walk. It's in a safe area of downtown, and more important than safe, it's an invigorating and vital area of downtown. And I will tell you that in some ways it's the perfect combination, because right now you're in Staten Island, I believe. In New York City, there's nothing like New York City. But after you've spent a little time in New York City, maybe you want to go to a city that is exciting, but a little bit smaller, where you know more people and you feel more intimate. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the greatest city in the world, New York City, and then the second best city in the world, Cleveland, Ohio. And it's a pretty good combination. I will tell you that every law school in the country, Dean Scott and Provost Esser, every one of them is competitive. But not every law school in the country is collaborative. And here's what I mean. When you're taking a look at law schools, you should look at what the culture is. It's not measured by US News rankings. The only way you're going to find out what the culture is to talk to the students and the alumni. That's even more important than talking to the staff and the faculty and the dean. I'm paid to tell you why our law school is great, but our students aren't, our alumni aren't. So I can tell you, I tell every student who's looking at our law school, yes, I want to talk to you. And I do talk to a lot of admitted students and prospective students, but I want you to talk to our students because they will tell you the truth. One of the reasons we have the strongest alumni network of any law school in the country, and I do mean that, is because if you think about it, why is somebody a loyal alumni of Wagner? Why is somebody a loyal alumni of any university, law school, or college? There's only one reason, because they had a great experience. You can't build loyalty after graduation. You can only build loyalty during the time you're a student. And at our annual luncheon of alumni in Cleveland, Ohio, take a guess how many people show up. I'll give you an example. I went to a law school down the street, very good law school, Case Western Reserve. And when I go to an alumni function, there are about 200, 250 people. At our annual luncheon, we get 1,000 people. Now, I tell that to the other 170 or 80 deans around the country, and they say, you got to be kidding. One of my good friends is the dean of Ohio State University, a much larger law school, right? They don't get 1,000 people at their luncheon. And the nice thing is that all these alumni, at least most of them, are in our backyard. So we open doors constantly. not just after law school, but during law school. You get these phenomenal externships. We call them externships. It's the same thing really as internships. And we open doors. There's no place we can't open a door, whether it's a corporation, a large law firm, legal aid, ACLU, government, county, state, it doesn't matter. The mayor of Cleveland is our graduate. The congresswoman is our graduate. The 3 of the 7 members of the Ohio Supreme Court are our graduates, including the Chief Justice. It goes on and on and on. So I say this to you because let's say you want to come back to New York City to live, and you don't want to stay in Cleveland, even though I will try to convince you why you're here that you should. But let's say I'm not successful. Here's why you still should come to our law school, because you're going to get such fabulous experiential learning during law school that if you just get a great job right out of law school in Cleveland for 1 or 2 years, and then you want to go to New York City, who are they going to ask about you? They're going to ask your references at your employer. And you want to get the best possible employer, and that's what you'll get from graduating from Cleveland Marshall. So bottom line is, I hope that number 1, you'll consider going to law school because it is a leader degree. And then if you decide to go to law school, I hope you'll go to one of the 2 law schools you've partnered with, Vermont Law School, which by the way is a great law school and is known particularly for their environmental studies, or for us, that is known for everything else. If you're interested in environmental law, I don't think we're going to be able to compete with Vermont. I'm the first to admit that. Barbara wouldn't want me to say that, but it's true. But if there's anything outside of environmental, yes, you should come to us because we specialize in everything. You name it, whether it's urban studies, whether it's gender studies, whether it's, you name it, we've got it at Cleveland Marshall, particularly public interest and social justice. Our mission is learn law, live justice. Every law school learns law. Not every law school teaches you to live justice as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dean Fisher. It's so wonderful to hear you speak about Cleveland Marshall. There's such a resonance between what we do at Wagner for undergraduates and what you do for your law school students. And thinking about, at the very core, law is about justice and humanity. And the Wagner education with the focus on the liberal arts through theory and practice is a really great preparation for students to go into law, and seeing the 2 institutions as having much of the same mission is a wonderful way to think about the progression. So thank you so much for sharing your ideas. And I'd also say that in the past 2 years in my role as dean, I've been learning a lot about the alumni, the fierceness and the love that alumni at Wagner have for the institution. And I think that element is another one that is a similarity between our institutions. And it's great to see that.
Great.
So thank you. So next, Barbara Andelman, who is the Assistant Dean for Admission at Marshall, is going to share some details about the logistics of the program. Dean A has been at Cleveland Marshall since September of 2019, and she is the Assistant Dean for Admission. She has significant experience in the business, legal, education, and nonprofit sectors, including 20 years at Case Western Reserve School of Law as the Associate Dean for Student Services and Enrollment Management. Her career path underscores the options available to those with a law degree, as she served as the Executive Director of a National Bar Association, as the Chief Operating Officer of a law firm, and as Vice President of a large social service organization. In addition to her work, she has volunteered with several nonprofit organizations and believes that it is important for lawyers to become engaged in their community. Dean A has particularly enjoyed her volunteer work with the Cleveland Council on World Affairs, hosting international visitors visiting Cleveland for educational programs through the U.S. State Department. She received her BA with distinction from Cornell University in German Area Studies and her JD from the Ohio State University, where she was executive editor of the Ohio State Law Journal. So again, another wonderful professional and educator whose experiences, share some of the same founding principles that Wagner has is this interdisciplinary work and commitment to community. So thank you, Dr. A, for being here with us, Dean A, for being here with us, and please feel free to take over the screen.
All right. Well, I want to comment on echo what Dean Fisher said about the power of alumni network. And I tell people thinking about law school that when I was applying to law school, if someone talked to me about their school's alumni network, I would have sort of thought, why are you talking about this? And why would I care? I haven't even started in your law school. And I have seen throughout my career, looking down the street at Cleveland Marshall, not as a graduate, but looking to see how successful the students have been. And now that I'm part of the Cleveland Marshall community, seeing each and every day how much our alumni do to help our students on their journey. So it isn't something like, oh, I'll join the alumni group when I graduate. It's the power of our network to help our students, support them. Every one of our students gets an alum mentor from day one of orientation, and we'll have so many opportunities to come out with a professional network by the time they graduate that really is so supportive and so powerful. And I think that, the enthusiasm of our alumni reflects the kind of support that they got. All right, that wasn't even part of my presentation. I'm going to go back to the beginning. So I'm just going to talk quickly about, and I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay, share screen. Whoops. Oh, share screen. Okay, here we go. I have a little PowerPoint here, and just to talk about a few, and let's see, how do I turn it into a slideshow? Just to talk about, oh, great. There we go. To talk about the partnership, the logistics. You've heard a lot from Dean Scott about what you need to do on the Wagner College side. So as a full-time student, again, normally you would go 4 years to college, 3 years to law school, 7 years. So this allows you to complete your 4th year at Wagner while you are a first-year law student. So it's going to accelerate your entry into law school. So after you've completed, if you qualify through Wagner for the program, you enter as a first-year law student. After you successfully complete your first year of law school, you will then, your bachelor's degree will be conferred by Wagner. And so you will normally, someone under the American Bar Association rules has to have graduated from law school before they can start in law school, but a special exception is made for people in approved 3+3 programs. So it's a really special opportunity. And I know you're cutting your 4 years at Wagner short, but you would be considered with every other entering student for a merit-based scholarship, along with every other applicant in the entering class. So again, I don't want to belabor sort of the process. You're going to meet with your advisor at Wagner as early as possible. This intent to enroll form signals to us, says, hey, we've got the student, they're from Wagner, they're thinking about 3+3, because we normally assume that someone's already in their senior year or has already graduated by the time they apply. So this brings us to your attention, the fact that you have submitted a form. It doesn't bind you. You're never obligated in any way, even if you say, I'm intending to think about pursuing the program. Again, you are not obligated in any way, although we certainly hope that you will join us. So you have to complete the regular law school admissions process and apply like any applicant does. You're just going to do it a year earlier. So the key is lsac.org. That's the Law School Admission Council. That is like your headquarters for all things law school. That's where you're going to sign up to take the LSAT. You should take it no later than February of your junior year. Many students in the regular course of things would take it the summer after junior year. You should think about it taking it the summer after sophomore year or sometime during your junior year. It's now offered, I think, 9 times a year. It has been virtual, so make sure to go. You can go on anytime at lsac.org and sign up for a profile there. Then you're also going to apply through there. So there's no cost to submit an application to Cleveland Marshall. So you're going to apply there. And then what they do is they bundle up all of your credentials, your transcripts, your letters of recommendation. We require your actual application and your LSAT score. And they're going to bundle it all together in what's called a CAS report, a Credential Assembly Service Report. So again, you do that all through lsac.org. And once you hit submit and you've applied to us, that triggers LSAC to send us all of those credentials that will complete your application. So as Dean Scott mentioned, someone with a 3.5 out of Wagner and what we consider a 60th percentile from the previous year on the LSAT. So that would be a 154. So if you have a 154 on your LSAT and a 3.5 from Wagner, and provided there isn't anything in your character and fitness statement that causes your application to receive more complete consideration, you're eligible for the program. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't get the 154 and the 3.5 GPA, that's it, you won't be able to participate. Absolutely not. We are very anxious to have Wagner students, and your application is going to be considered on our end for purposes of being admitted, and we will confer with our counterparts at Wagner to make sure that everyone's in agreement that you're eligible to participate. You need to come straight from Wagner, so you can't complete through your junior year and then take some time off and then sometime down the road under the 3+3 program. It needs to be continuous, right from Wagner straight into Cleveland Marshall. Just wanted to give you a sneak peek at our 2020 entering class. We had a large class in 2020. They were numbered 140, but we're sort of aiming for probably a little bit smaller classes in the next coming year. Women and men, about 50-50, 18% students of color. Our average age is 25. We get many, many students coming straight from undergrad, and we get many, many students who've taken some time off to get some life experience. We do have a part-time program, but the majority of our students are full-time. We have a healthy 18% from out of state, and many undergraduate institutions represented in our student body, and many states as well. I just sort of give you a little sense of the school. There are many, many ways to stay in touch with us. Of course, you can't click on my hyperlinks. So I'm going to drop a whole bunch of, if it's okay, Dean Scott, once we start the Q&A, I'm going to drop in the links for these things very quickly. We have a prospective applicant form. I would encourage you to fill that out so we know that you exist, and so that we can send you, I do not spam you, but I do send you really helpful information about exciting events that you can join here. I'll give everybody a heads up on when we can start resuming in-person tours. Dean Fisher gave a fantastic virtual tour of the law school that I've binged watched probably 17 times, and I learned something every time. So it's a fun way to see the school without coming. We have a calendar of events throughout the year. I do virtual office hours on Wednesdays and Fridays. So by clicking on the calendar of events, you can register for those office hours. You can sit in virtually on a class by emailing our assistant director of admissions, really just until the semester ends. So maybe starting up again next year. We have a page called the Get to Know Us page that is, it won't win any design prizes, but it is packed with really fantastic information to help you, get the creative juices flowing, thinking about law school, hearing what alumni say and students and faculty, and seeing what resonates to understand what law school is about. And then finally, I did a little series of videos on the application process, one on how to obtain the best letters of recommendation you can, how to write a really good personal statement and get noticed for all the good reasons and no bad reasons, and the process of compiling your law school application. So I'm going to put those links into the chat once we start talking, and I'm open to any questions that anyone has.
Great, thank you, Dean A. So next, if we have anyone remaining with a question, please go ahead and ask, and Bryce, I know you're further along in your time here at Wagner, but if you have questions in general about law school, maybe those might be, you might have the opportunity to ask those. And perhaps Professor Martin, Dr. Esser, Dr. Kraus, if you could envision a question that a first or second year student might ask, maybe you could pose yourself in that place and ask a question.
Let me segue into a different question that I have for Dean A and Dean Fisher. And I'll try to think about what it was like back as a freshman in college and see what I can come up with for that part. But as the pre-law advisor to our pre-law society, one of the things our students are talking about with some interest, and it just furthers along with the partnership possibilities, is when your classes have mock trial, would it be possible for us to maybe work into some kind of an agreement where our students are your witnesses?
That is an extremely creative idea.
I-
And I don't see why not. In fact, it's something I don't think we've ever done before, but I love the idea. And so the answer is, I'm sure we can work that out. I think it's fantastic.
Our students would love to get that close to real law students. And we're in mock trial, we're always looking for witnesses, and usually we're tapping our fellow classmates to jump in. So you have some very excited people that want to get desperately involved in the legal world. Here's a step closer. It just already adds to our articulation and our agreement, if possible. I mean, I'd be happy to spearhead that along with whoever your professors are in those courses. But it just dawned on me, because we did have one young lady who's a senior now on her way to law school. She actually was a witness at a mock trial for a different program. And it just got me to thinking, gosh, I wonder if we could do something like that and kind of put some kind of an agreement together. Not a handshake, not an agreement. I don't need it to be that formal.
Our moot court teams and our mock trial teams win lots of national awards. They're both very popular programs. No surprise, because the single most important leadership skill in life is written and oral communication. And you learn both, not just the oral, but the written part too in law school, but particularly with special focus on the oral communication and in mock trial and in moot court. And so being able to have some of your students participate, not just as observers, but as participants, wonderful idea. I think it's a great idea, and I'm sure we can work it out.
Sounds terrific. And I think the number one question that we would get as advisors at this level, as we're talking to our young people, are things very specific and particular to that application process, the LSAT, meaning how many times you recommend I take it? Should I join a Kaplan course or get a personal tutor? We have with our pre-law society this year, and it had some starts and stops, a program that we can now call L Saturday. And basically we have a group of students that get together, they use my conference room, and I go upstairs and do some paperwork on Saturdays, and I leave them alone, and they sit around and grab a part of the test and work on it and then go over the answers together. Wondering what your impressions are, Dean Fisher or Dean A, on those types of programs, and how you would tell somebody like Bryce, who's still with us, how he should prepare as best as he can.
I'll let Dean Andelman answer that, but I do want to trademark L Saturday. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. And any other really cool ideas that you have. You got like an idea factory going on there. So on the Law School Admission Council's website, lsac.org, they have a whole host of resources to prepare for the LSAT, including the free Khan Academy, KHAN. So that is a learn at your own pace, but it's free. It's offered through the Law School Admission Council, and they have a variety of other kinds of test prep materials. So I would advise any student most certainly to prepare as much as possible. I think most students sort of carve out about 3 months to prepare for it. We accept the highest LSAT. So if someone takes it more than once, not that I'm suggesting someone do, but if they do take it more than once, we're going to be focusing on the higher of the LSATs, even if it's an earlier LSAT. So I think that there's so many more test prep courses now than there were just with the proliferation of online courses. So I would just, some of them are really, really expensive. So I would urge people to take advantage of your L Saturday and the free materials through the law services. It's not necessary to purchase, just, you know, a high priced LSAT prep course is not necessarily the best one, but taking the time to prepare and a course that has the analysis that helps you understand where you might continuously be falling short and understanding the strategy of addressing the questions. So those would be the features that I would look at in an LSAT prep course.
Barbara, would you also mention the GRE?
Sure, although that's not part of the 3+3 program.
Oh,
So,
good point. Okay,
yeah,
that's right.
so you are required to take the LSAT for the 3+3. A lot of schools have dipped their toe into allowing students to apply with the GRE. I think there might be 60 some schools that allow it. They generally have higher standards for GRE scores for admission to law school than their normal LSAT standards in terms of the percentile that they're willing to accept while we're sort of in this trial phase of schools using GREs. But if you're going in the 3+3, then you do need to take the LSAT.
Just out of curiosity, do you have any information or data on the number of those 18 to 20% out-of-staters that come to Cleveland Marshall School of Law and end up becoming Indians fans and never leave? Or do they mostly go back home and take the bar of their home state and then continue to practice elsewhere?
Well, you are required to become a Cleveland sports fan. So that, regardless of whether you show up or leave,
Fair enough.
I would just say that this isn't particular to Cleveland State, but I think that what happens is many students who go away to go to law school, many end up staying in that area, not because they have to, but because they find a great job or a significant other, or they find out that they love the area. So I should mention that we offer at no extra cost the bar preparation exam. It normally costs you around $4,000 when you graduate to prepare for the bar exam. That's included at no cost with our tuition, and that does, regardless of what state you want to prepare for. So it's not a foregone conclusion that you would stay in Cleveland, but Cleveland, for historical reasons, is one of the premier legal markets, disproportionate to the size of the city, dating back to the time of the Industrial Revolution. Many of the world's largest law firms, the Jones Days and the Squire Patton Boggs, some of the largest corporate legal employers are located right in Cleveland, minutes walks from the law school. So many of our students have summer jobs or during the school year jobs at these employers and then end up wanting to stay. But if you want to leave, I know a student who graduated last year who got a job right in New York City, downtown Manhattan, and prepared, through our bar prep service for the New York bar. So it's definitely possible. You're not really, with the exception of the law schools in Louisiana, you're not really sort of stuck staying in any state, no matter where you go to law school. And certainly we have alumni all over the country if that's what someone ends up wanting to do.
Having gone to law school in Louisiana, I appreciate it.
Right. So the Napoleonic Code way better than any of us.
I was certainly subjected to it for a while, no doubt about that.
Let me jump in here. This is John Esser, because I have to, unfortunately, I teach in just a few minutes. So I'm going to have to sign off early, but I did want to mention that the real power of this program, both for us, and I think that it's where it's going to probably begin to build a pool for this program is, we have these admissions days, and I'm a sociology professor, but as a pre-law advisor, they talk with me more about pre-law than they talk about sociology, I'll tell you right now. And that's the moment where I can say, and we have this 3+3 program, and And that will now we're hoping that that'll bring some students to Wagner, but I'm also hoping that they'll get that bug in their ear, and so that even by the end of their freshman or beginning of the sophomore year, they're already thinking that's what they're going to do. So
And Provost, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because law schools love a diversity, undergraduate study diversity. So I was a German major. My husband was a geologist. Lee, I don't know what you were. We have nurses, we have doctors, we have sociologists, we have math majors and science majors. So we would love to encourage everyone, no matter what, engineers, whatever their area of interest is, to consider themselves as pre-law students. Really, if someone's coming to you and thinking, well, I'm really loving philosophy, is that a good pre-law major? Absolutely. So no matter what your students are studying, we would consider them pre-law students.
Follow up on that for a second. And we say the same thing. You can major in anything and some really great grades and a good LSAT score, and you'll go on to law school. What classes, if any, would you solidly recommend that a student, even if he or she is a chemistry major, that they might take that would better prepare them maybe for the LSAT, or more importantly for that first year of being inundated in law school?
It's interesting, because I think the traditional answer has always been taking government classes or history classes or political science classes, but I have a different view of that. I actually think that anything that requires you to think critically and to write and to communicate is good preparation. For example, theater is a great preparation for law school. People don't think of it that way, but I think theater is great for it. I think that English in the humanities is a great, and creative writing is a great preparation. So I think we have to think much more broadly. I think people used to think that it was only one sort of thing. And I'm not suggesting that there aren't, for example, if you take a course that's offered at Wagner about Constitution or law, that's obviously going to help you in law school. There's no question about that. But having said that, you shouldn't feel that law school is only for political science and government majors. The truth is, it doesn't matter what you major in. It's all, you'll find a way that it'll prepare you well for law school. So don't get too hung up on that. Anything that helps you think and analyze and communicate is a good preparation.
Agreed.
I'm going to jump in and say that art history is a great discipline.
And I've known
And that's
people
what I am. I'm an art historian, and I can say that the analysis, the writing, the research, the critical thinking, they're all there.
Makes sense. Who did that art behind you?
Those were some students, Wagner students, who were doing a community project with butterflies.
Well, whoever did that, tell them to apply.
and I know people who've gone into art law.
Yeah, good point.
I knew a student who, when he graduated from law school, went and became a sommelier, wine expert. And within a couple of years out, he was, not even, 26 years old. He was the nation's #1 expert on insurance losses of wine, collections at restaurants. And so, you never know what might, what personal passion combined with a law degree could lead to really an interesting career path.
In fact, let me give you another example. You're interested in sports, you're interested in entertainment, go to law school. Why? Because some of the most successful people in the sports world and entertainment world, particularly those who are agents, are lawyers. Most, not all, but many or most of the most successful agents in the NBA, NFL, and the major leagues in baseball have law degrees, and they're phenomenally successful. So don't think that because you're a jock or you love sports that law school is not for you. It could very well be for you.
Yeah, I was referring a little more specifically to the thought that I recommend students, even if they are an art history major, which is terrific, and it does not matter for law school, that they might want to take one hardcore law class so they understand what it's like to brief a case. They understand the terminology, so they're not shocked in that first day when they have to read 75 pages that first week of law school and they don't even know what they're reading. So I was looking for that one specific class that you said, I don't care what you major in, but my recommendation is you take one philosophy course, or maybe you take one logic class because logic's on the LSAT, or you do take con law, because if you don't like that, you probably might not like law school itself, because that is real law. And you're going to see that kind of language in writing all the time. So that was
If
what
you
I was
have law,
asking,
yeah,
not
you-
what to major in. I'm talking about one class, if any.
Good point.
yeah. And if you have law-related classes, obviously, that's a tremendous benefit to your students.
It sure is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I teach, I'm not trying to talk about myself, but I do teach, all I teach are Socratic method
Oh, really?
types of law courses, criminal law.
Well,
Criminal
in that case, you
procedure.
do have to take a David Martin course. Then I didn't know that.
Maybe
Using-
all the
Well-
David Martin courses.
Yeah,
I
right.
use law school textbooks where I can.
That's
Wow.
impressive. Now, there are a lot of
Wow.
colleges, by the way,
That-
who don't have a David Martin. So that's a unique
Please,
thing they'll
please,
offer. No,
come on.
really, it's true. That's very
Yeah.
unusual. That's great.
Yeah, so they're doing case briefs and I call on them cold call in class. every
Really?
day. Very, very lightly, but it's still just to get them warmed up for this is what your next life's going to be like.
That's
whether you like it or
fantastic
not.
preparation.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think will be really, really beneficial with this program is having this, the kind of dual advisory structure with the interdisciplinary major, so that the students will be working with someone who has a deep knowledge of the pre-law, what the pre-law program should be, coupled with someone in perhaps another discipline. So we can have that, the kind of complementary knowledge bases that can help guide students as they work on their undergraduate courses. And so they'll be encouraged by the pre-law advisor to take courses that are directly related to law, while also explore other connective humanities, social science, even visual arts courses that can really spark that that critical thinking piece and cooperative piece. So I'm really excited about the program.
So, what you're saying really underscores to me that although the students coming out of the 3+3 program from Wagner might be a year younger than a normal student coming out of school, it sounds to me that the academic preparation they're going to get is so on point for law schools that I don't have, I'm very excited about their potential for doing really well in the program.
Great. Well, thanks so much to all of you. And we will make this recording available to students, and we'll work with our communications department here to make sure that it's available and accessible to folks who are interested. So thanks so much. And
one more quick question. Dean
yeah.
Fisher, in your public life, when you were Lieutenant Governor or Attorney General, were you involved, or do you remember a Republican state official, last name Huffman?
Matt Huffman?
I think so, yes.
Yes, I do. Yes, he's still in the legislature now.
Is
Matt
that right?
Huffman. Yes, and he's actually a very powerful legislator. Yes.
I love, his daughter Ellen was the #1 graduate of Wagner College recently and a member of our golf team.
Really?
She's now
Wow.
working in Manhattan in the business world, but she was an exceptional student. And
Small world.
Wagner College, exactly what I was trying to say, small world.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you very much for the partnership. We're honored to have it with Wagner, and we hope to have a number of our graduates in future years who are graduates of both Wagner and Cleveland Marshall at Cleveland State.
great. And thanks to you too, Dean Fisher and Dean A, for your support and cooperation in putting this together, both the program, the future, and for today, for this wonderful sharing of the program. And I think that's a wrap.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sarah, David, thank you very much.
We'll be
Bye,
in
everyone.
touch.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Barbara, I'll speak to you in the fall.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.